Okay, I would like to talk about the Chauvin trial, upcoming events. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you remember my video last year. I took the iPad, which you're watching now, to the desktop, and I watched the Chauvin video on the desktop, and I recorded my response to it on the iPad. And I said then and there, I said, there's a part missing. Part one, George Floyd is confronted at the car and arrested. Part three, he's laying face down on the ground with a knee in his neck. And part two is missing. And then obviously it surfaced again. I think I talked about it in the previous video. And I also about the reason for the arrest was using a counterfeit bill. Now, let's examine that for a minute. I heard a documentary years ago. I have no idea when or where. I just heard it from somewhere. It is believed that every single one of us has handled at least one counterfeit bill at least once in their lifetime. And you've seen clerks and cashiers, they hold it at a certain angle and look at you, okay? And they might be able to tell if it's fake or not. If a counterfeit bill is suspected, the local police are called in to examine it. The local police typically hand it immediately to the Secret Service. Lincoln founded the Secret Service, not to protect him obviously, but to mostly deal with financial crimes, which they still do to this day. And the Secret Service has collections of counterfeit bills, and they examine every square inch of them to figure out who might have done what where, when this might have been printed, blah, 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 blah. And the majority of the time, the police bring the counterfeit bill, they mail it to the Secret Service, or if the Secret Service is like there's a local location nearby, they bring it to them, and they tell the Secret Service, a citizen had this bill, we don't think he knew it was counterfeit, we don't want to press charges. Okay. In order for you to be prosecuted for a counterfeit bill, they have to either A, prove that you counterfeited it, or B, prove that you knew it was counterfeit and spent it anyway. Now I want to go on a tangent here. There's a show on YouTube called The After Prison Show. It's hosted by a 6'4" white guy named Joe, who went to prison for 7 years. And he talks about prison life, surviving prison, prison hacks, getting out of prison, rehabilitating yourself. And he talks about some prison rules. He was in a dormitory in the prison, which is a giant open room, bunks, and lockers. Guard comes in. The rule is, if it's in your locker, it's yours. If it's in your bed, it's yours. If it's anywhere else, it could be anybody's. And there was a locker, and underneath the locker, not in the locker, but underneath the locker, were some bed sheets, and in the bed sheets was tattoo ink and a tattoo gun, which is illegal in prison. And the guards knew that Joe was the tattoo guy. He's like, wait a minute, aren't you the guy that does the tattoos in the cell block? Yeah. I'm searching your bunk. And the guard searches the bunk and finds antihistamines. Now, in prison, you cannot have Flintstones vitamins without a prescription. So a lot of guys in prison have prescription medication, legitimately, and they buy, sell, trade, barter, and next thing you know, medication in his hands. So the guy sees the amphetamines and says to Joe, this is your bed, they're your pills. Prescription, you were in possession of a controlled substance in a prison without prescription. The guard gave Joe back the tattoo gun and said, I don't want this anymore. I'm taking these. And he charged Joe with medication unlawfully in a prison, and the solitary confinement, revocation of privileges, okay, delay of release for good behavior, stuff like that, extra duties, okay, shit like that, yeah. Well, in this case, you have a guy who has a counterfeit bill. He's not smart enough to counterfeit the money. Let's be realistic about that, okay? And he probably didn't know it was counterfeit. Why is he being arrested? Well, he's in the car, getting ready to drive away, tuned up on fentanyl. The guard in the prison gave Joe back the tattoo gun when he found the medication in his bed. Okay, well, in this case, the police, they don't even need to see the bill anymore. Okay, police come to investigate you for a counterfeit $20 bill. Okay, they catch you driving under the influence of drugs. I don't need this anymore. Now the charge is driving under influence. You can, in the United States, legally be charged with driving under the influence if you were under the influence of anything that inhibits your ability to function. The most common is obviously alcohol, but marijuana, NyQuil, sleeping pills, anything that affects your ability to think, you're drunk driving or driving under the influence. In this country, the only thing the cop needs to see is you're in the driver's seat with the engine on. It doesn't matter if the car's parked. It doesn't matter if the car's parked in your own driveway. If you are in the car with the engine on, you are driving, period. Now, if you were out somewhere drunk, at a bar or some shit, and you don't think you can drive home, but the bar is closing, call your friend, and if you're gonna sit in the car and have your friend drive you home, or have your friend drive your car home, sit in the passenger seat or the back seat. That way, if a cop comes, you can explain, I'm not driving, I'm in the back seat, I'm in the passenger seat, I'm waiting for my friend to pick me up. Okay? But in this case, George Floyd is in the driver's seat. He's on fentanyl. He's driving under influence. He's being arrested. Now, when camera 2 shows up, him being arrested, the missing piece, that was leaked by the British media that is not beholden to the American Democratic Party. He is under the influence of fentanyl, which is a synthetic drug more powerful than heroin. He is upset at the loss of his mother. And he's panicking that the police are going to beat him up and shoot him. Okay? His lungs are affected. They bring him over to the car, handcuff him. He doesn't want to go. He's afraid. He can't breathe. He says, I can't breathe. You ever have an occasion where you cry a lot? Maybe you're a little kid and crying a lot, or maybe you're an adult but your best friend got killed. Your mother died in front of you. Okay? Imagine crying a lot because you're upset about your mom passing away. You can't breathe. You're crying to the point you can't breathe. Also, the drugs are not helping at all. So his lungs, his throat is already compromised. Now, they realize they have to call an ambulance. Typically, in a case like this, you can either bring the guy to jail and have the doctor come to jail, or you can bring the guy to the hospital or bring him to the psych ward. He's committing a crime, driving while under the influence of drugs. He's on drugs. He's depressed. He needs a combination of mental health check, physical health check, and arrest. Now, on my birthday, March 10th, Tucker Carlson said, and I almost had a fucking heart attack, the Minneapolis Police Department and Police Academy, to this day, train the officers to put the knee in the neck. Now, I had professors I had a professor who was a Virginia State Trooper, detectives, psychologists. I had professors that used to tell me, at the academy we teach this. 50 years ago they did this. Not anymore. This cop put this guy in a headlock, broke his neck. That's illegal now. You can't do this, you can't do that, okay? My professor, the Virginia State Trooper, he used to say, if I'm gonna choke the guy, I might as well shoot him in the head because I'm doing deadly force. Okay? Don't hold people by their neck, okay? My professor, the psychologist, I was 25, she was 30. Blonde hair, blue eyes, 5 feet tall, 100 pounds. She'd been in mental institutions. She has dealt with guys like George Floyd, meaning they're on drugs like him, they're depressed like him, they're as big as him. She knew from being in the mental hospital a million takedown methods. Hold one arm, one person holds this arm, one person holds this leg, one person talks to the person, okay, hold their arms like this, wrap them like this, tie them like that, roll them into that. She knew a million ways to restrain a guy. She could have gone to that scene and she could have taken care of it. She's 44 now. She's getting old, right? We all are. Okay? They teach you nowadays not to touch the neck because you can break the neck. Fucking duh. And I've seen the shit from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. You know, slam the head through the window, slam the head on the hood of the car, punch the guy in the face, shoot the guy in the back, okay? Take the fucking baton, hit him over the head with it, okay? Okay, take your flashlight and choke him with it. Okay, that was the 50s mentality and shit, okay? That's not done today. The Minneapolis Police Department, they have to seriously up their game. They have to seriously reconsider their training methods, okay? Now, I could understand putting a knee to the neck if he's reaching for a weapon, okay? If he's raping a 11-year-old girl, okay? If he just committed a mass shooting and you gotta get him under control, I understand the knee to the neck. But he is handcuffed, face down, in the middle of a psychotic episode. Should you be putting the knee on the neck? No, you should not. Especially when you're white, he's black, you're working in an inner city, and there's a bunch of guys filming you, okay? What you can do and what you should do are 10 different things, okay? Remember Case Bold kneeling on the black girl's back, okay? This is stupider, okay? They could hit him with a taser. They could have taken the baton and broke his legs and put him in the trunk, okay? They could have taken the flexible, they call it the flexible baton, okay? The shotgun shell with the beanbag, it's called flexible baton. They could have taken the flexible baton, put that in the shotgun, and shot him in the butt with it, okay? Okay? They could have pepper sprayed him, okay? Anything would have been better than what they did. Anything at all. They put the knee to the neck, held him there for 8 solid minutes until paramedics arrived, and he died on camera anyway. When he got to the hospital, the medical examiner said that, lamest terms, he died of a combination of the fentanyl overdose coupled with trauma to the neck during the arrest. The fentanyl overdose is considered an accident. Yeah, accidental overdose, whatever, right? And the trauma to the neck is considered homicide. Now, here's what's going to happen. The defense is going to argue that George Floyd was not a saint. Now, in church, they compared George Floyd to Jesus. That's blasphemy. Okay? I'm not the best Christian. God knows I'm not. But when you compare a guy who spent his entire life stealing, doing drugs, and compare him to Jesus, that's blasphemy. Okay? The defense is going to remind us that George Floyd put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach during a home invasion robbery, and she had a toddler in the room also on top of that. Okay? The defense is going to show the video of him having his panic attack, being unable to breathe, being tuned up on drugs, trying to drive tuned up on drugs. Okay? The defense is going to argue that the police academy taught the officers to put knees on necks to restrain people. And the defense is going to argue that according to the autopsy, he had enough fentanyl on him to kill 10 guys. He was going to die anyway. Now the prosecutor is going to argue that it is irrelevant that he's a thief and a drug dealer, drug addict, whatever the fuck he was, okay? He's a prisoner. He should have went to trial. The prosecutor is going to argue that even though you were taught to put your knee on the neck at the academy, you should have known it was a bad idea in that situation. The prosecutor is going to argue, even though he's going to die anyway, you shouldn't have done it, okay? If I go to the hospital and I see a person that is loaded with cancer, okay, and I take a butcher knife, okay, and I stab the person in the chest as they're dying of cancer, well, they were going to die anyway, but I still killed them, okay? You could literally be an inmate in prison and go into death row and beat a guy to death in death row 5 minutes before the execution. The point is, he was sentenced to die by lethal injection. You beat him to death in the cell before the sentence is carried out. That's still murder or manslaughter, but it's still killing, okay? Now, he's tried with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, third-degree murder. The jury can pick between either one, okay? Alan Dershowitz, the famous lawyer, says he's going to walk because Alan Dershowitz says unless the judge and prosecutor add manslaughter, it's not going to stick. Alan Dershowitz does not believe that this Chauvin guy murdered him on purpose, but he should have known that he could have died. That's called manslaughter. Manslaughter means you did something. There's a couple forms of manslaughter, okay? I'll give you one example. If a guy rapes little kids and the guy is being dragged away by the cops, and one of the kid's parents pulls out a gun and shoots him, okay? You use the gun to murder a guy on purpose, but because he raped your child, you were not in the right state of mind. So a lot of times they'll say, okay, listen, plead guilty to manslaughter and do 10 years of probation. Sometimes you might have a guy come home from work, going to the bedroom, and his best friend is sucking his wife. His wife is sucking his best friend's dick. And in a fit of blind rage, he grabs a lamp and just bashes the friend on top of the head and kills him. And he argues that in the blind rage, he didn't control himself and he killed the guy. They plead to manslaughter. Also, manslaughter is you do a reckless act. You didn't mean to kill anybody, but you should have known better. Okay? If you drive down the road after drinking a bottle of vodka and you run over a baby carriage, you didn't mean to kill them, but what was going to happen? Or if you're driving 120 miles an hour on the parkway, whipping in and out of traffic, and you crash and kill 5 people, okay? You didn't mean to kill them, but you should have known better, okay? This is a case of you should have known better. What you did was reckless and indifferent to human life. manslaughter. The jury might rule third-degree murder. Every state is different, but the jury might go with third-degree murder as a compromise, or the jury might say third-degree murder because we can't. You know what I mean? Now the jurors are afraid, and I don't blame them. One juror was dismissed. Potential juror was dismissed because he was arguing that he wanted justice for George Floyd. You can't say that in court. Nope. One juror was dismissed because he said, "I'm gonna try to be respectful, but I'm afraid my wife and kids are gonna be hurt." Some states, after the case has ended, publish the names of the jury. I don't agree with it, but some states do it. When I was doing federal jury duty in Manhattan years ago, 2014, I had a woman, and this is federal jury duty in Manhattan. The woman was from New York City, and a while ago, she was doing jury duty questioning for a state case. And she's in the courtroom with the judge, the lawyers, and the defendant. And the judge asked her to give her home address. The defendant was a very large man, was a known gang member, and it was a murder trial. And she said, "Well, I don't want to tell you that because I'm afraid." And she said, "Say your address, or you're going to jail for contempt." Now, thank God nothing happened to that woman, but there are some courts that will publish names of jurors. Some states allow that. Some judges and lawyers will ask personal details in the courtroom in front of the defendant. Like, where does your mother live? Or, do you have kids in local elementary school? Okay, things they should not be asking. And the jury is not afraid of Chauvin. The jury is afraid of BLM. Because BLM burned down thousands of businesses. Burned, looted, ravaged, primarily in the black neighborhoods. Some Hispanic, some Arabic, some Asian, some immigrant. But for every one white guy that lost his store, 10 black guys did, or 20 Arabic guys did. BLM ravaged the minority communities. Ravaged. People were killed. They shot a 77-year-old retired police officer in the back. They shot a 23-year-old woman in the head. They beat a young man to death with a fucking skateboard. And these people are deadly afraid. What if BLM comes to the courtroom, looks at them in the courtroom, and files them home or some shit? Or if they're caught in public, Don't forget, BLM and Antifa, they've gone to politicians' home addresses with impunity, They'll find a juror, BLM has made it impossible for this case to be fair one way or another. BLM burned down a building with people inside, including a baby, and then blocked the fire department. Thank God the fire department got through in time. BLM burned a building in which little kids with cancer with their parents. They're not a joke. They're just as bad as Al-Qaeda or ISIS. They're just as bad. And that's why I get sick when I see celebrities supporting BLM. You cannot have a fair trial in this country. Now, when I was in 8th grade, OJ was acquitted. And a lot of guys get upset about that. Did I kill jurors? No. Did I burn down stores? No. Okay, how about Casey Anthony? A lot of people believe that her daughter died either because of her negligence or her deliberate act. Her daughter's skull was found in the woods. Do we agree with the verdict? No, we do not. Do we burn, loot, steal, murder? No, we do not. Okay? The problem is you have an active terrorist group that targets everyone from cops to kids with cancer. Okay? And there is genuine fear in this country. And it's not only about their city burning to the ground. They burned over 3 dozen Americans because of this event. Over 3 dozen. So my prediction is the jurors are going to go with third-degree murder because it's a lesser charge. Because let's face it, if the jurors say, like Alan Dershowitz says, this looks like manslaughter, but manslaughter wasn't charged, so I got to rule not guilty. The case is not did the guy do the act. The case is did the guy break the law that we talked about in the indictment. Okay? So if I rape a woman and I'm charged with misdemeanor assault, I did rape the woman, but the charge is wrong. That's why when you go to court and you see a murder case or a rape case or a terrorism case, they have 50 charges to choose from. Okay, option A, go with not guilty. Option B, go with third-degree murder. Option C, go with, okay, it's a whole line. Because the prosecutor's hoping to hit on one of them. Okay, I personally think the jurors are going to say, listen, let's call it third-degree murder. They didn't charge manslaughter. Let's call it third degree. Because if we let this guy out of here, they're going to come kill us. That's a hard way to live. And I don't ever want to see a jury influenced by that. But it's the truth. Okay? This case has destroyed this country. Okay? The case has destroyed the country. If they simply picked him up and put him in the car and he died at the hospital later, it would have been fine. But I'm scared for this country, my friends. I'm scared. Okay? Public servants are targeted. I'm a public servant. Okay? It is terrifying. I do predict that he will get trouble, he will get convicted of something. I do think he will serve maybe 10 years in prison. I think he should be punished for what he did. And I think the Minneapolis Police Department should rethink their training if they haven't done it already. And it's really, really late. Plus it's daylight savings time, so I gotta go to sleep. Okay, so good night, guys. Thanks.